All right, how are we doing? And welcome to another edition of the live stream with Paul Zeise. Of course, we are I guess it's Wednesday, Hump Day, and we are looking to get over the hump. Hopefully, you're all, at the end of your day and having a good time, unwinding, maybe perhaps. Clearly, yesterday was a huge day for the Steelers. They went out and got a receiver in Mike Williams, and they went out and got Preston Smith. So they've got two players who theoretically are going to make them better. And I think one of the things that's interesting is, as we talked about yesterday with Brian Batko, is that both of these players seem to be depth players, to be honest. And I think that, for better or worse, if you think about it, for better or for worse, they really didn't change their team all that much. I think what they did, they were able to go out and get some depth, and I think that's at least some, on some level, that's pretty good in terms of what it would take to make it through the rest of the season. Before we get started, the game is always on at Archie's on Carson Street, Pittsburgh's best place for food, drinks, and sports. Open Sundays for the game, 12 p.m. to 2 a.m. Be sure to check their daily drink specials and stop in for 80-cent wing nights Monday through Thursday. Tell them Paul Zeise sent you when you get there. I just am telling you, I looked at what they did yesterday. I thought it was interesting today. One of the things we talked about with Mike Williams was, he's been injured. He's coming off an injury. And I think that's the key. It really is the key in many, many ways, that he was coming off a major injury and he's trying to come back from it. I thought today when he met with the media, he said some really interesting things to me. But the most important thing was, it sounds to me like he might be getting better every week. He might be getting just incrementally a little bit better. It sounds to me, if you listen to him, his knees getting stronger and all that other stuff. I just think that's where he's at right now. And so it is really kind of interesting in many, many ways to look at what he said today and also how he's fitting in. And his whole thing has basically been, look, as the season goes on, I feel like I'm going to get better. I feel like I'm going to be able to go out and make sure that that I contribute. I'm basically going to get to know the offense a little bit. And, he said, I'm going to basically be a playmaker for this team because that's what I've always been. So it's one of those things where he probably, he said when he was with the Jets earlier in the season, he wasn't exactly 100%, especially during OTAs and training camp. But he feels like he's going to get better and better and better and better. So I would say this, if you think about it, is it enough what the Steelers did? Is it enough? And I feel like it's going to be interesting to see how good he is or how good he can be or if he gets better, because that's the question that you have to ask yourself many, many times over. Can he get better? Will he get better? Will he be a part of something or whatever it is they're doing? And I think that, he is obviously a key in many, many ways to whether or not this was a successful trade deadline. And I think that's where we're at right now with Mike Williams. Nobody really knows what they got. Did they get a guy who's good enough? I don't know. I just think that really it was one of those things where he probably is going to have to sort of work his way in. And then he's going to have to prove that he can play and be an upgrade or be better than the two guys that currently are ahead of him. So we'll see. I mean, I think when you look at Mike Williams and where he's at physically, it could be, a case of where he's much better week 15, 16, 17 than he is right now. Honestly. Week 15, week 16, week 17, he might be one of those things where every week he's gotten a little bit better to the point where now, he's got that burst back. And if he does that, he gives them a weapon. But, the question that we asked today to start this video was very simple. And that is, in your mind, did the Steelers do enough at the trade deadline to get better, to put them back in that conversation where they're among the top teams in the AFC? I still maintain that they're in that similar situation. I think there's 4 teams: the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, and the Steelers. Those are the 4 teams in the AFC. Do I feel like they've improved their lot in that area and in that group of 4? I think they put it this way. They put themselves in a situation where they can probably withstand, a few injuries better than they probably have been able to in the past, because they added some depth, obviously. But to me, I think that when you think about it that way, it's going to be interesting to see, how in the world they're going to fit in. See, the thing about Preston Smith that's interesting is he's a guy who really feels a lot more like he feels a lot more like an insurance policy. I think one of the things that he does do when you compare him to Herbig, I think the biggest thing is he is going to be a complete player and be able to give them some run support, whereas Herbig is still pretty much a one-trick pony in many ways and is a pass rusher, but you have to put him in the game in certain situations because he's not a great run support guy. Whereas Preston Smith, I think, has got a skill set where he's got a little bit more size to him, and I think he's got the skill set where he can actually be in run support as well. So he's the kind of guy you can keep out there on the field for, all 3 downs. And he's the guy that you can put out there on the field and give somebody like TJ Watt or give somebody like Alex Highsmith a legitimate break during the games so that they're fresh in the fourth quarter. I mean, ultimately what you want is basically you want those 2 guys to be fresh in the fourth quarter. So I think that's really, if you kind of break it down that way, that's what the Steelers were looking for and trying to do. Now, whether or not they accomplished it remains to be seen. But I think it's pretty clear to me that Preston Smith probably will be the guy that contributes quicker than Mike Williams. In fact, I think if you read, and let me pull this up real quick, if you read what Mike Tomlin said today about Mike Williams, I don't know if he's going to be ready. I don't know if he's going to be really ready to jump in this week. Here was the quote, you tell me. Mike Tomlin said he hasn't decided if Williams will play against the Commanders, actually, or Preston Smith. If we're, but when it comes to Williams, we're going to determine that. There are some variables in the equation. First and foremost, the ability to learn. Have to have an above-the-line component to our play and get a sense of what they're physically capable of. So, that's really what it comes down to. He said basically this week is not the end game. We acquired both of those guys for the remainder of the journey, so that's my general mindset. We might not see either of these guys this week, but I think, honestly, there's probably a really good chance we'll see Preston Smith. I don't think that there is I think there's a good chance we're not going to see Mike Williams. I could be wrong, but I think reading the tea leaves, it seems to me like Preston Smith will probably play. Mike Williams might not even be active. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just, trying too hard to read between the lines and all that other stuff. But, it's going to be interesting to see what happens and who gets a helmet and who all that other good stuff. Now, I will say this too. I think that it's important for Mike Williams to find his role here. I think that is such an important thing. Find your role. And if his role is basically to, stretch the field a little bit, and give George Pickens an opportunity, I think that's great. If his role is something else, then that's great too. But he's got to figure out a role so that he can play, so they can use him. I think that when you think about the Steelers, this is, to me, the next couple of weeks is going to be a lot of really kind of showing us just how good Russell Wilson can be. That's what I don't even need to see anything else with the Steelers. When it comes to Russell Wilson, I want to see him playing against good teams consistently 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row. Show us that he's Russell Wilson that they got and the guy they think that they acquired when they acquired him. That's what I would like to see from Russell Wilson. And I honestly don't think that he is a guy who really, truly, 100% has shown us everything he's capable of yet. I just don't think he has. So I want to see what he looks like when he's out there and he's playing against, some of the better teams they have coming up on their schedule. I'd love to see what that looks like. And we're going to get a chance to see it. Because honestly, if over the next 3 or 4 weeks, Russell Wilson goes out there and really plays well and throws touchdown passes and throws some of the, makes some of the throws that we saw last week or whatever, I might have a different idea of where I think the Steelers can go. And there are some people that ask me, what do you think is the Steelers' ceiling? Right now, I would tell you, I think they can get to the playoffs and win a playoff game. Do I think they're good enough in the playoffs where presumably everybody is going to be playing at their best, which, as we know, doesn't always happen. But in the playoffs, are they going to be good enough to beat the Chiefs, to beat the Bills, to beat the Ravens? If everyone's playing at their best, I still favor those 3 teams. However, if what we've saw the last couple of weeks against, obviously bad teams, the Jets and the Giants, if that's not a mirage, then guess what? I think that honestly, we're in a pretty good place with the Steelers. And then I start to think about maybe them putting them in a different category. I think that's what we all have to do. Take some time, watch Russell Wilson, watch how he plays. See if Mike Williams adds anything to the Steelers. But, there are some people that are angry that the Steelers didn't do more. No offense, but I don't know that there was more to be done once they didn't get Brandon Ayuk. I mean, once they didn't get Brandon Ayuk, if you want to tell me they could have went after, DeAndre Hopkins, I guess. How good is he? I know he had a touchdown the other night against the Chiefs and everyone went crazy, but seriously, I just don't get it. Don't understand it at all. I wish I did, but I don't understand why, what is out there that people think the Steelers should have went and got. Once they didn't get Brandon Ayuk, I honestly think, you know what? You go, my glasses are all screwed up. What is going on here? This is ridiculous. This is really starting to irritate me now. I'm looking at the thing here. These glasses, I got to go get them adjusted, and they're too big for my face or something. I don't know. I got new glasses. Basically, I got these new glasses, and they're screwing up my face right now. And I'm trying to figure out how to keep them straight, because I can't see out of them. These lenses here, they basically have this ridiculous, glaze. Did you ever go to get these glasses, right? So I go to get these glasses. Let me just take a break. I'm going to talk about the Steelers in a minute. I got to get this off my chest, though. And, these frames are, say, I don't know, $200. Okay, good. The lenses are, say, I don't know what they were. Say the frames are $200 and the lenses are $100 each. Okay, good. So now we're paying $400. Okay, good. Right. We want to put this glaze on them and we want to put this on it. And, these are protection thing. Next thing you know, the glasses are $800. I'm like, what the hell? What is all this stuff you put on here? And now I'm looking at these glasses and they're pissing me off, quite frankly, because they're just basically right now not fitting on my face the right way. So I got to go back and get them fitted or I'm going to lose my mind. So I apologize for that, but that's the reality of it. You get to a point where sometimes you just look at something and you're like, this isn't right. This is not right. You know, I just love that about the American society right now, though, don't you? This is the price when you look at it on the shelf. By the time you get it out the door, the price is completely different. And you're like, well, what happened over here? Anyway, I think if you look at the Steelers, right, it is really kind of a thing where if Russell Wilson plays really well, honestly, if he plays well over the next few weeks, it shows against good teams. I mean, I'll tell you what, forget about this week. Listen, I'm going to say something, and I'm going to probably get more into this on Friday than today, but I am not enamored with the Commanders at all. I just don't think they're that good. I don't think their offense is that good. I don't think they really are a 7-2 kind of team. I think they've been more fortunate than good. I think if you look at Jaden Daniels, he's done some amazing things and he's done some really good things. But I think if you look deeper into his numbers, you're probably a little less impressed, especially individually in certain games. But I'll just tell you, it's one of those things where the next week they play against the Ravens. And I know they've played well against the Ravens, but right now the Ravens look to me like their offense, at least, is really going to be taken off. So I'm rooting for me. I know a lot of people love the defense and they love the elite defense and we got to go get the quarterback and all the other crap and renegade and all that. I'm rooting for the Ravens game to turn into a complete shootout. Because we have somebody the other day, I asked the question, when was the last time the Steelers won a shootout? Well, you know what? I guess it could happen this week too. Maybe Jaden Daniels goes crazy. I don't think that, again, I don't think the Commanders are that good, and I think that he's probably a little overrated. But my point is, I want one of these games to turn into a shootout. Someone actually, the Green Bay game, was, I don't know, what year did we determine that was? Maybe like 2000 and I forget what year, 12 or 11 or something. The last time the Steelers won a legitimate shootout where both teams went up and down the field and nobody could score. I mean, nobody could stop the other team. I want to see that. Because if the Steelers show me they can win that kind of game, guess what? All of a sudden, I probably are going to start to believe that they can win against the best teams in the AFC in the playoffs. And that might even include the Chiefs. Look, I know the Chiefs are right now, you have to say it's their world. We're all just living in it. I understand that. They are the quote-unquote best team out there by far. Not really by far, but they've got the best quarterback by far. He's a winner. Might be the best that's ever done it. So you got to beat him. But I don't know. If they show me in some of these games that they can win a shootout, I'll probably feel a whole lot differently about this team than I do right now. Right now, if you ask me, what's the sky? The sky's the limit. No, I think the limit is probably one playoff win. That's probably the limit. But if they go out and they play a couple of these games against these teams with these really good offenses, and they can win a shootout, I don't know, man. I have to tell you, it's one of those things that I really believe. It's one of those things where we are probably going to be talking about a team that has a chance to be a real problem in the playoffs. And that's really what the Steelers have been in a long, long time. They haven't been in a long, long time. They haven't won a playoff game in 7 seasons. Going back, I mean, there's very few of those seasons where I thought that they were legitimately a team that could make a deep run into the playoffs anyway. This team might have that ability. Their defense is really good. Might even be elite. And now they've added some depth to their defense. Their offense is a work in progress, but what we saw the last couple of weeks is it can be pretty good, especially now that they've got a quarterback who can pull the trigger the right way. So you add Mike Williams into the mix, you ask yourself, did they get better? I think they got deeper, but I don't know that they got better. And that is, it's just an important thing for me, really. I mean, Did they get better? I'm not sure. I know they got deeper, so I guess technically they got better. Andres asked me, what if they win without being a shootout? If they beat the Ravens like 13-10 or something, I mean, that's great, and I want them to, obviously, you want them to win games. My point, Andre, was simple. In the playoffs, they have to show me that if one of these playoff games against one of these really good teams, because this is what's happened a few times to them, if a game starts rolling downhill a little bit and it becomes fast and it becomes a shootout, can the Steelers win a game that way? I know they can win 13-10. I just don't know that they're going to have that opportunity in the playoffs. I know they can win, 16-13 or whatever. I just don't know in the playoffs if that happens. The game has to go a certain way for that to happen. We've seen them win like that for 6 years now. My point is they need to show that they can win in a different way before I'm really ready to say, okay, I'm buying whatever it is they're selling. And I think that's what, you look at what they have over the last 7 years, and that's been the biggest issue that they have. They can't win multiple ways. Period. And I'm just telling you that really, it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think it's going to happen this week, by the way, because again, I'm just not that sold on the Commanders. I really am not sold on the Commanders. It's funny. Yesterday with Brian Batko, I said the Redskins. It's so hard sometimes for me to remember that they're the Commanders now. And quite frankly, let's talk about this. I actually liked football team better than Commanders. I think Commanders is it's a stupid name. I really do. And while we're at it, I think Guardians is an idiotic name, like the Cleveland Guardians. That's idiotic, especially since I found out what it means. It has something to do with a bridge or something. I was like, what are we talking about? Just be the Cleveland baseball team if you have to be politically correct. Be the Washington football team. I thought that was a cool name. I like that. The Washington football team. Washington Commanders is just stupid. Don't like it. Really, not at all. So I think that it's really kind of understand, it's kind of hard to take them seriously when I say that. But anyway, that's a different rant for a different day. To me, I see that uniform and I see that they're from Washington and I say, you know what? They are still the Redskins in my book. Anyway, people have asked me how I think this Preston Smith is going to fit into the Steelers, and I will tell you it's very simple. I think he's a guy that gives them the ability to really have a good full rotation at outside linebacker. I think he'll be the edge rusher, but I think he can also be a guy that plays, on some downs where there might be a running play. And to me, I think TJ Watt is at the age where, if you can get him some rest and not have a drop-off, significant drop-off, there's always going to be a drop-off, but you can have somebody that can get in there and get the job done. I think that's tremendous. That's what that's what you really, really want, because if you can, for say the last 2 or 3 series of the game, have a fresh, healthy TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, and they're basically just kind of pinning their ears back, that's when you start to see the strip sacks. That's when you start to see the batted passes, the quarterback hurries that lead to interceptions. That's when they're able to really start dialing it up the way they want to dial it up, is if they're healthy and fresh and not beat up and tired from having to play every play. So we'll see. I just think that it's important to note that there is always going to be sort of a discussion about how many plays you want to give your stars off during a game, because obviously you want them on the field as much as you can have them on the field. But if I say to you, I'd rather have them on the field for the fourth quarter than the second quarter, it makes sense. So, I don't know what's in a football game, say 60 defensive snaps. I mean, if TJ Watt can play 35 of them, It's probably better than him playing 45 of them, if you can get away with it. That's what I would tell you. I just think that's really where we're at. It's going to be a very interesting game. It's going to be a very interesting, stretch run now. But I think one of the things about bringing Preston Smith is you basically announced loud and clear that you understand you need to have some semblance of a safety valve or some semblance of a insurance policy for your two edge rushers. Period. And that's what I would tell you. That's where we're at with that. And I think that's the key in all of this stuff, is trying to figure out how they're all going to fit in. Again, we might not see it this week. If you listen to Mike Tomlin, he's not 100% certain that he's going to, play either Mike Williams or Preston Smith. But to me, they're on the roster. If they show anything at all this week at practice, you're probably going to make them active. And now it's a matter of, how much are they going to play? But as far as the trade deadline goes, I think that honestly the Steelers did as well as they could possibly have done, probably, in giving up very little. And I think the other part of it is, once they didn't get somebody like a Brandon Ayuk, right, or the pipe dream of DK Metcalf or Cooper Kupp, you were always destined to get somebody like Mike Williams, who's just sort of a flawed player. And you hope that his injuries his injury has gone away a little bit and he's able to play at a high level or whatever. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I don't know what they're going to get in him, but they didn't give up much for him. And if he's healthy and he gets a little bit more healthy every game, every week, then all of a sudden I think you're going to be pretty impressed with the fact that Russell Wilson throwing to him, all of a sudden he looks a lot better than he did, when he was hurt, especially. But even when he was trying to come back and he was playing for a team that feels to me like they are really kind of in a bad place, where there's not a lot of hope with the Jets. And people up there seem to be pretty convinced that they're not going to go anywhere, and they're out of the playoff hunt and all that stuff. Well, guess what? Now he's on a team that's playing for. He's on a team that's playing for something. He's on a team that many regard as one of the best in the AFC. He's playing for a quarterback who's going really, really hard. He's playing for a quarterback who has, Hall of Fame career or borderline Hall of Fame career, who's already won a Super Bowl. You got a shot. And I think that's really what it comes down to. They have a shot, but we have to see it now. We have to see it week after week after week after week. And once we see it, I think it'll be a good thing for sure. That's just, to me, I think that's the key for the whole wrapping up the whole trade deadline thing. That is the key to me. And that is, we have to see what these two guys do to determine whether or not they had a good trade deadline or a bad trade deadline. They didn't give up much. They got deeper. They improved in a couple of areas. But how much? Only time will tell that. And that's really, honestly, what I would tell you. Only time will tell you just how much they've improved. At any rate, again, the game is always on at Archie's on Carson, Pittsburgh's best place for food, drinks, and sports. Open Sundays for the game, 12 to 2. Be sure to check their daily drink specials and stop in for 80-cent wings. Monday through Thursday, tell them Paul Zeise sent you. Archie, obviously, on Saturdays, it's a home for college athletics. They've got a very big contingent of Pitt fans that go to that game. The Loyal Sons is what they call themselves. They also have a huge contingent of West Virginia fans. So if you like Pitt or West Virginia, get down to Archie's and have a good night. Tell them I sent you. Actually, you can also eat the 80-cent wings and or my grilled cheese sandwich. I have a grilled cheese sandwich called the Paul Zeise grilled cheese sandwich, which you will only know what it tastes like and how good it is when you go down there.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.